Clash of Clans podcast, OG, episode 54.
Skilly beep 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 skilly beep.
And on the first try. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Scotty827, joined in studio by the lovely, the magnificent, the marvelous Tip Dog, the 20, the master of strategy. How's it going?
I'm doing a hair flip right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, but I don't have any hair, so I can't exactly do a hair flip.
Well, ghost hair.
Ghost hair.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm putting on your player card.
Ghost hair?
No, yeah, I'm going to put that one on there now.
Does it have anything to do with Ghost Knight?
No, I'm a master of strategy. So when I'm generating and for people out there, I'm creating like these player what would you call them?
Player cards, right?
Player cards, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best thing for everybody now. Yours is really proven to be very tough, but
just make them bald.
Well,
no
it was
hair.
cool. Now, well, you showed me the thing the other day, and we were talking about AI, and and then I saw there was an update, so it made it even tougher. But I give everybody kind of like a tag, and I don't have it anywhere, but I tag everybody, like tell ChatGPT as I'm telling it what to do and who this person is and whatnot, and then it kind of takes it from there. So, but yours was master of strategy.
I don't know if I'm the master of strategy after our most recent competitive war, but that's okay. It was my first one.
It was a beautiful attack.
The
sexiest funnel I have. That was.
So I did figure out one thing that I did wrong. I left Diggy on my warden, and I was wondering. I was like, I was watching the attack, and in the moment, I was like, why in the world are these 3 ice golems headed towards my dragons? And I watched it back afterwards. I'm like, oh, Diggy was on my warden. So that means they were attracted to because my RC charge, my spirit walk, had pulled the CC, unfortunately. And whenever my warden went down, even though my warden was on air, Diggy pulled the ice golems over, and they just got stuck in the worst place. So I don't know that it would have been even close to a 3-star, but still, it
looked really good. That looked really good. But here's the thing, though. The question is did you leave it on, or was it switched?
No, it was my fault. Yeah, I left it on, which also shows
one. You could have just blamed on Supercell.
Yeah, I mean, no, Supercell. I mean, they left it and they switched it on me.
Yeah.
So it's their fault that I didn't 3-star.
Shame.
In the competition. Shame on Supercell.
Shame.
Thank you, Scotty. You are my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody will think that.
Yeah. Shame, Supercell. Poor Tip Dog. Think about him.
Which shows the need for the new Sneezy pet. Have you used it at all?
No, I have not got the upgrade yet. Well, let's just preface everything by saying we just started with the no wait update. So all the years of content are out the window now because there's no training times.
Pretty much. I have an old YouTube video that's titled, "What are the most time-efficient farming armies?" And that's the video. And it talks about which troops train faster than other troops and, which ones you can only use partial armies to get as much loot with as possible. All of that gone. It's a worthless video. Completely worthless.
It's hard. So we're in the no wait update. Got that new pet like you mentioned. Should we start there with the update? Where do you want to go in with the pet?
Why don't we start with the no troop training time? Because that's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
What have you noticed? Anything different about your attacks or how you're looking at the base or when you come back after an attack? Like, what are you feeling about it?
Well, here's what I think. I'm just gonna predict that my body will react to and run on the old clock of coming in and doing that. I mean, with daylight savings time, I had trouble, like wartime. It screwed me up with wartime for sure. So I think it is ingrained in my body that I will do it the same. So what I've noticed, I'm really just getting used to things. Like the biggest thing that pops out to me is the interface.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is nice with the uh my Legend League attacks. And I did think, I'm just railing off the couple right off the top of my head, that for someone who plays multiple accounts, it might be a really good update.
It is a very good the biggest thing that I've noticed is that now I have to think of Clash differently, because before, especially if I have a really busy day, like if I have to be at work at 8 o'clock, if I have a job that starts at 8 and I'm going all the way till like 6 at night or 7 at night, well, I have to typically at least get 2 attacks in the morning first thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's going to be impossible unless I pop a training potion to get all my Legend League attacks in. So, I have to do 2 attacks and then it's on my brain. And then I have to do 2 attacks immediately the moment that I get home. Hope someone's on to donate CC troops, or somebody's always on. And then, get my last 4 attacks done between the hours of like 7 and 9:30, when I'm getting ready for bed. So now, like if I don't want to, if I don't want to feel rushed, I don't have to attack in the morning. I can just wait until I get home, sit down at 7 o'clock, go outside and just do my Legend League attacks for an hour. And bam, bam, bam. Like I don't have to worry about it at all. And that is super nice. I really like that.
Does it feel like you're breaking the rules?
A little bit.
Mm.
So on my Strategic Rush account, I have this very specific way that I would do my attacks. So I would go in with Sneaky Goblins, do the attack. I would come back, click on the training bar because I want to make sure that I spaced out my sneakies and my wall breakers. And also, I used invis spells and earthquake spells. You can also use jump spells with the Sneaky Goblin army. And I would go in and respace them out after every single attack. That way, with 2 full army camps, I could get, 5, 6 attacks done. And
Yeah.
so after this update, every time after an attack ends, I go in and I click the training button. And I'm like, "Oh, crap. Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's do it again." And I go in, do my attack, and then I come back and immediately hit the training button. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, crap." And then I go in and then come back. "Oh, crap." And go in, come back. "Oh, crap." It took me probably 6 or 7 tries before I'm like, "I don't have to click the training button anymore because they're already there."
That's awesome.
So I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you notice the difference in? I mean, I think so. The big thing that came up of it, right? It's like, how is it going to change the game, right? Is it
Mhm.
the biggest thing right when the news broke is this? It's going to. Someone said on the pod that it would kill the game. I can't remember who said it.
I think it will bring life to the game, to be honest with you, because now you think of it differently. Because before, especially when I'm switching between accounts, I would think, okay, I'm going to get 2 attacks in on Tip Dog 20, and then I'm going to switch accounts over to Tal Shiar, and I'm going to get 2 attacks or 3 or 4 attacks in with Tal Shiar, and then I'm going to switch over to another base and get 2 attacks in on that base, and then I'm going to log back into Tip Dog 20. Oh crap, my army's not finished training yet. Well, let me log into my other account, do 2 attacks there, and then log back into Tip Dog 20. Well, one of the armies is trained, so I could do 1 hit. And then I do the 1 hit, and then I log out and go back to Tal Shiar.
You
So
know
it
what
was just
you know how
this
it feels to be
juggling act.
schizophrenic.
Yeah. So
Schizophrenic.
so now what's super nice is I've had specific upgrades that I've wanted, because with this update, we got new levels of army camps. We have new levels of the pet house so that we can get Sneezy. And so I've wanted to upgrade my army camps. Like that's been priority number 1 in my base upgrading. And so I have been able to stay on Tal Shiar until I had enough elixir. And I typically would get it 10, 15
Oh,
attacks. And I just loot and loot and loot and loot and loot. Bing. You hit that number, and then I log out and I go to another account. So it's just thinking of it from a totally different perspective.
so do you think it's gonna make I mean, obviously, right? Accounts, using multiple accounts easier.
I think it will make multiple accounts easier, but I think it might decrease the activity on single accounts. So,
What I was wondering, I guess.
well, I'm curious what you think because you have just the one account. And like obviously we're super nerds. Like Scotty 827 and Tip Dog 20 are like the nerdiest of the nerds. We are
Hopefully.
revenge of the nerds,
We're
the
winning some prize,
coolest.
Tip.
We're like the coolest nerds in existence. Like
That's
we are
right.
the top of the nerd food chain, right? So you have the one account, so we stay logged in all the time anyway because we enjoy chatting with people, in game and having these conversations. But for the average player, I would think they're going to play for 20 or 30 minutes and now they can play for 20 or 30 minutes and they don't have to do an attack, log out, log back in 10 minutes later, log out, log back in 10. They don't have to do that anymore. They can just stay in. So they're going to loot enough to be able to upgrade whatever item it is that they're trying to upgrade. Then they're going to log out and they're going to look at their builder list before they leave and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't have another builder coming due for 2 days. I don't have any war hits to do. So do I even need to log in for 2 days?" And I'm
Yeah.
afraid that that might happen for single base players. Oh, what do you think?
I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought about it that way. For just like in terms of single base players. I guess what I was a little I'm a little nervous. I think the problem is a couple things, maybe. Number one, the chat FC thing has got to be fixed
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty
because it kills conversation. I mean,
right.
it when you go in there, it's like you can't really read through, and I feel bad when I'm just spamming the shit out of it because,
Yeah,
but I want to practice. I'm like, okay,
right.
but then it kind of just it looks like kind of gives the impression that people are around or something. I don't know. It's just in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is in no way a plea to our fellow clanmates or ourselves
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah,
who are very I wouldn't even say guilty of doing it, but who are very proactive or very
yeah. I'm
active.
like,
It's like it needs to be done. Like
yeah,
the
like,
only way we're going to get better is if we do 50 FCs in chat if we have a couple hours to practice.
yeah,
But like you
and
said,
I'm like,
mixing that with chat, it's just such a killer. Like
yeah.
it's a bummer.
It just like you're just sitting there. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I'm going because, it's just like I need to practice. And so I think for me doing maybe if it might orient the game a little bit more towards the competitive war and CWL because then you have more time for practicing. Maybe. I don't know. Like for me. So that's also because I'm in Legend League, so I only have 8 attacks per day.
Mhm. Although that might
W-
change.
yeah, and I think something has to change with that where I think you have to at a certain point now after this update seeing unlimited attacks below Legend and then we only get 8 attacks. I think like we keep 8 attacks for like Legend hits, but put us in a Legend farming category or something.
Or like we've discussed the random RC option. Somebody's RC just kind of randomly appears on your
Yeah,
base. The
yeah.
random FC option where you click attack and it's pair up with somebody for an FC and you don't get any loot from it, but that also would solve the problem of 50 million FCs being in chat because if we're doing our own FCs versus random people in the internet,
Yeah.
that like I'm not going to bother Scotty 827 with, "Hey, can you post an FC?" And then
Do
it shows up in chat if I have this random FC option.
Why not do like a cloned, if we get our
Yeah, clone
gi-
base FC.
give us like 3 friendly army options or base options that we put that go into like our clan um bundle or something or you know what I'm saying? Like so it can be shared when people even aren't there.
I would even
Um
pay gems to do random FCs. Like let's say it
yeah.
cost a gem every time you do an FC, it costs a gem.
That would,
Like, obviously, people would be
yes.
massively upset about that. Oh my gosh, super so. But you don't have to do that option. You can do free FCs in your clan if you
Yeah.
want. But if you want to do an FC against somebody out in the Clash universe, well, you got to pay a gem every time. I would pay real world money to have that option and to not have to fill up the chat with FCs.
I also thought, okay, and this might be wild, but if above that 8 attacks, you could hit as many times as you want, but make the trophy gain, um, make it so that it's a +1 for a win and a -2 for a loss.
So if you don't 3-star, you mean?
If you,
Like, what do you consider a loss?
oh shit, yeah, I didn't. Well, like,
Or go ahead. Go ahead with your idea because I have another idea
no,
I'm
go
super
for
excited
it.
about.
Go
Okay,
for it.
so what if uh okay, so I got to formulate my thoughts, but one thing that I'm loving is, and we just did a competition, right? In hard mode, and I love when it's hard. I love it when it's hard.
I
The
bet you
best.
do.
Right?
Once a year, it's the best day of the year. No, I'm
Pop
just
that
kidding.
pill and you are good to go. So I would love to have hard mode in Legend League. Now, you're gonna have to split it up somehow because
Oh yeah.
not everybody likes hard mode. Like, we like hard mode, but there are a lot of players who just enjoy regular mode, and that's okay. Like, regular wars are in regular mode, that's great, but we need to have an option for hard mode. So how can we finagle it so that we can get more hard mode practice? Because we love the challenge. We love the excitement of not 3-starring, right?
Yeah.
There are people who only like the game and like the feeling of 3-starring. How great that, yes, I 3-starred. But then there are other players who would rather have the challenge and literally never 3-star as long as we can see minor improvements in our attacks. And your attacks, for example, like, I have seen major improvement over time because you're hitting bases in hard mode and you're just getting a little bit better every single time.
I
And that growth is what I want.
I'm starting to see things that I didn't see before in just that practice. And we were talking about like the 10,000 hours or whatever. But yeah, that hard mode and as you're saying that, I'm again like kind of put into the um realm of the difference. But like learning those troops and not only that, but like I think because we're starting to do some competitive stuff and we're sharing more FCs. I'm just getting more practice
Mhm.
against the really well set up bases. And then, like when we did the tournament today, it was uh, such a learning experience. And we kind of do a little download afterwards, usually. And now I've got a bunch of ideas coming from that. Like, oh yeah, maybe I should try to do these things with my heroes. And I don't know anything about anything anymore. And maybe I should just no, I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, I'm getting. I kind of wonder if they shouldn't rename it tournament mode
Yeah,
and just and kind of put those two realms.
it separates it.
Yeah, but yeah, I love that mode, and so I do get a little bit worried about the social aspect of it because you don't have people coming in all throughout the day to do stuff.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah,
Then
if you're pressing the FC option and you're not FCing your fellow clanmates, will that disconnect you from your clan in some way? And I don't know. I don't think
yeah,
so.
but
I don't
then
know
we're
if that's
waiting
what you're
on
talking about.
yeah, yeah, and then with that, I guess on top of that, you're kind of anchored though by the troop donations, so you're waiting on troops.
Hmm.
So in a sense, I think it could be a little that's going to change some things for some people if they're waiting on troops all the time.
That's true. Well, but it gives you a reason to talk. Like, I'm
Yeah,
waiting for troops. Hey, how's everybody's night doing? You
but if
know,
you
it's
but
morning in the Netherlands for Chewy, so hey, good morning, Chewy. You know, it's late at night for me, kind of a thing. You
but
know.
if you only have a clan that comes on at 5 to 6 p.m., or I think there'll be some like changes down the road with that, like just effects of it. So it'll be interesting to see. Um,
Yeah. But I like it. What do you think about the new CC change where you don't have to use gyms to donate now instead it and I found this very interesting. They went back to the old model where it actually cost troops to train and they used those prices to charge us for whenever we want to donate troops. So now it costs elixir, dark elixir, all of that. Did you find that interesting?
yeah, I like that. I think that'll be it'll be better for my gems. But right now with the update because of the upgrades, I've been needing resources, I guess.
Mhm.
Especially like the elixir. So I think I'll see the benefit of that more. I like it. I think it's kind of going to change the economy, really.
Yeah.
Uh, Especially for, I guess, but loot's easier to come by, right? So
Except for Legend League players.
yeah, except for Legend League players.
Which
I,
I've never we had this discussion of you were asking a while ago about whether or not I had enough loot in Legend League to be able to keep things upgrading, and I've always had enough loot. I dropped out of Legend League right before I took my break, but other than that, like I've been in Legend League pretty much nonstop for years, and I've always had enough loot, so that's never been a problem. And I'm not noticing an issue. Like I'm continuing my donation through Elixir and Dark Elixir, like I always used to through gems, and I'm not
Me too.
noticing a decrease in my Elixir count. Like I'm not noticing I don't have enough, at least at this point. So hopefully it's not an issue. But the fact that we don't have any more than 8 attacks and we're now donating troops through resources, I mean, you're right. It could be an issue for some players. So I can see that.
I've been accidentally doing that. And of course, we got some new things. So we're kind of at that place where we just need a lot of resources, anyways.
An Elixir in particular.
Yeah.
Like Elixir for the army camps, Elixir for the pet house, Elixir for the dark barracks upgrade. But I do think once those things are going, like once they're upgrading, Elixir was always the first resource that I had too much of
Me too.
because the rule was always offense first, defense second, right?
Yeah.
So I think once these things are upgraded, we'll notice an overflow of Elixir, and this won't be an issue for us. Like at all. It won't even be a thought. Like,
Yeah.
do I have enough Elixir for that upgrade? Can I donate these, 11
Yeah.
balloons,
I was getting a lot of
to
walls done before.
right?
Um, what did you so update drops, we have new things. Did you start an upgrade?
So I hammered an army camp right away, and then I still have to hammer my new Yeti level, because those Yetis look badass. Like
Yeah, I can't wait.
the Yeti mites, like I'm super excited to get to try those in armies, and so I have that ready. And then of course it's what 7 day or 5 6 days wait between hammers. So I have another hammer that's coming due, and I'll probably hammer my last army camp finished. But that was definitely my goal. What did you start?
Well, I did the barracks right away.
Hmm.
I had a book of building.
For the furnace,
Yeah, for the furnace.
and you like it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be cool. And I was using it right away. So I've been putting one in my CC for my attacks, like for friendlies. And
Mhm.
then when the thing, when it like if I use a siege barrack or whatever, then when when that thing comes out, it's just like streaming stuff like into the base, which is helps distract. But it's so new. So I thought I had a book of fighting, and my I had everything kind of lined up, and then I was going to do that for the Yeti. That was the big thing, and I was waiting on some resources. I can't remember what. And so I started the furnace upgrade after that, and I think I'll be able to finish it today. And then I need a book. I need a book for a Yeti. That's my big goal right now. So, but I did debate between the pet house and the uh um
Dark barracks.
dark barracks, yeah, because I felt like offense, and I know the army camps were there, but I just knew it was gonna I'd rather have like the furnace, something that I could start cooking.
Yeah, especially if it's, I mean, helpful for your attacks. And one thing that I'm curious to get your feedback on this. One thing I'm really excited about with the furnace is Town Hall 16 was a very dividing town hall, and the fact that there were a lot of players who really loved Town Hall 16. And there were also a lot of players who absolutely hated the Root Rider meta at Town Hall 16. So I think that it's really hard for Supercell, which I think may be part of what they're doing is they're trying to divide and make both camps happy. So the players who want this ability to put out mass armies like Root Riders, for example, well, they can
Yeah.
please them by letting those players do that and successfully do that and successfully 3-star in regular wars, maybe in regular Legend League, regular CWL. But then also they've made it so that this other group of players who doesn't like being 3-starred all the time, even though they themselves can 3-star, pretty easily, they want something harder. Well, we're going to create this separate path for them that involves hard mode, that maybe involves hard mode FCs. Maybe it involves hard mode Legend League. And there are two different paths that they're setting up. But this new furnace, I think, especially with the new Yeti levels, sets up the opportunity for some type of mass attack that if a player is good with their spells, they'll be able to put down a row of Yetis. They can put down furnaces behind it, and then they can use something like the snake bracelet on the king, maybe witches. Like, I don't know the mass army that's going to kind of develop from this. And that player group who likes that style of play is going to have something to actually work with because Supercell's almost taken away the mass army. I mean, Root Riders are working, but not in the same way that they were
Yeah.
before. I know there are a lot of players who like, look, I want, and I hate to say spam because spam has such a negative term. And there are
Yeah.
players who are really, really good at quote unquote spam strategies. So I'm hoping that this furnace will make a spam strategy that works for a player group who really enjoys that style of play. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think the problem has, so, and that I think maybe why, excuse me, why I decided on the
Ribbit.
ribbit, the furnace first was when we get into these tournaments and war, and the big common theme that has been going around is these bases are catching up. These bases
Mhm.
are getting beefier. Uh Tons of 99%, 90%.
Mhm.
Uh you could see it kind of in Legend League, I think. Like for me, where I'm at, uh like it's just not as many 3 stars. Everything's kind of changing. So my whole as I'm trying to change my army or look for different things and play around is uh I need more tanky, beefy, but I also need to be able to get cleanup and uh get those last percentages. And so anything that I can put on the base that gives me more, I think is really beneficial. Because I
Yeah.
I put that so I've been kind of running a witch because
Mhm.
typically, and not in my tournament one today, but if I can start her back far enough, and might usually have a Yeti that'll drop in front of her, I'll take an extra 10-12% on the back end because I can throw her in, and get more than I could get out of a super minion or whatnot with the witch and something else. So that's why I went with the furnace, and that's where I think it's going to be really valuable. Is
So remember how we had talked about how strategies come back around, like they're almost circular. So we had talked in the past. I think you were working on the Root Rider strategy. Oh, no, it was Super Bowlers. You were working on Super Bowler Smash
Yeah,
and putting down your Super Bowlers and using healers and funneling on one side with the Warden Walk, maybe funneling on the other side with a Flame Flinger. And I had mentioned that attack strategy was very similar to something that had been used a lot at like Town Hall 13, Town Hall 14, even a little bit in Town Hall 15, but something known as P.E.K.K.A. Smash, where it was literally the
Oh,
same setup,
yeah.
but the player would use P.E.K.K.A.s and
Yeah.
Super Wizards
I remember you talking about
almost
it.
in the same way that they would use their Super Bowlers. Well, I think that you using and one thing with the P.E.K.K.A. Smash that was very commonly done was in order to funnel one side, the king was placed down on that one side, and 2 witches were used behind the king. Like, it was in
Yeah.
everybody's army comp. Like, a king and 2 witches. Every time somebody did a P.E.K.K.A. Smash, it would funnel out one side with a Warden Walk or even sometimes like a queen mini queen charge that folds into a P.E.K.K.A. Smash, and on the other side, it was always funnel with the king and 2 witches. So you're just kind of bringing that attack strategy back on its head where you're still smashing just like the P.E.K.K.A. Smash would, but you're copying the strategy of old and you're bringing it back where maybe you're using the king, maybe you're not, or maybe you're putting a Yeti down and 2 witches behind it, but that's just recycling a strategy. So I think,
I
like,
should
maybe watching some old P.E.K.A. Smash videos, like,
Yeah,
may actually give you some ideas.
I was just gonna say I should go watch your old videos for new strategy updates.
What's old
Bec
has become new again.
Yeah, it does kind of comes back. I was wondering, people were talking about golems, and is the golem healer gonna make a comeback?
Yeah. Although the team that we faced today in competition, they had multiple kill squads. I don't know if you noticed or not, but they like one attack in particular used a golem and had a king and queen entry. It didn't end up 3-starring, but it's really difficult to 3-star in hard mode anyway. But I think we're going to see more of a shift. Like we talked about last time we discussed this
For
topic.
that, for the golem to come back, or just to
Yeah,
use the heroes,
yeah.
or just
Use
to
the
use the
golem,
heroes.
using the golem in front of the heroes, and then the heroes take out as much of the base as they can, and then the troops wipe out the rest of the base, or at least as much as.
Yeah, I mean, stuff has got to. I need a breakthrough for sure on some of these attacks and like or just something a little bit different. Um, because like so what we saw today in the tournament mode was or in the tournament was a real the team we faced really separated their attack
Mhm.
into phases. Uh, and that's not where I'm at all yet. Um, so yeah,
It's
I don't know.
yeah.
Any any strategy that would work. I'm just thinking about in my head how I could make that golem work. Uh, get my brain spinning that way.
Well, and if we're not gonna like realistically, unless we're a high level attacker, if we're not gonna 3-star anyway, and we can get more of the base with a hero charge, then why wouldn't I try it? And I think the reason, the holdback for me, is because of muscle memory. So I have been attacking with Spirit Walk, and that moves into Root Rider Smash. And my hesitation is, well, I'm using this in regular mode. Well, am I going to use something different? And am I going to look at a base differently in a hard mode? Which kind of goes back to the question that I had for you is like, what I'm getting these 2 modes mixed up, and obviously,
Me too.
I can improve and I can get better to where I'm good at both modes. But if I have to look at a base differently, why would I not try it? Well, the reason is because, well, I do good with this attack in regular mode, so I'm just going to use it for hard mode. When we need to I need to stop thinking that way, and I need to think differently so that I can actually do better in hard mode in these competitive, games, these competitive matches whenever we do them.
Well, and then I get into the hard mode and I'm doing well with an army, and then I go, let me put it into normal mode,
Hmm.
and then I start using it over there, and I tweak it, and okay, well it's working good over here. Let me put it into my hard mode, and I think you, you nailed it for me, and I guess my friendly challenge army and my regular army are a little bit different, but I still always contemplate before I'm going to do a war hit if I should use that other army.
Yep.
So part of me thinks just need to change it up even more. But yeah, again though, I'm already contemplating in my head. Well, maybe, why wouldn't it work over in that other um
in regular mode.
in the regular mode. Uh yeah, I don't know, seeing those tournaments just they give you I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but I felt like, well, they've got a really different style. Is this the kind of style I'm going to have to adapt to? Um, or how can I incorporate it in? I don't know.
I'm really excited about like what they have in the works. I mean, obviously, we don't know what it is, but they've talked about reworking Legend League, and I don't see other than just the simple. Well, you get 8 attacks a day, and then you can just loot as much as you want without trophy gain. Like other than something simple like that, I'm excited because they've come out with some great ideas. Like obviously they came out with hero equipment, which is massive, and that's been a huge addition to the game, which I really love. I think you really love as well. I mean, they've come out
Yeah.
with these new troops and these new like they have a ton of great ideas. Like I love the developers, the way that they're thinking. So what are they thinking about Legend League and a new way to look at the game and a way for me to get better at strategy and attacking? Like what is it that they're going to come out with? And I'm super excited about that.
I feel like I'm playing more strategy now.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just doing the tournaments and it's not like we're doing tons of them, right? It's only like, once a week, but we're practicing and gearing up and kind of learning the stuff. But I feel like, and maybe this is speaking to the spam thing, but it's that you really have to even be more precise
Right.
than a year ago. Um, and well, I guess I'm, a higher town hall, but I feel like the percentage in the stars, the change in that as well, like, uh, just that the 3-star is harder to get. Uh, I just feel like you're really having to work for each percentage, and I like that. I think that's a
I
great
do.
place to be.
Yeah, I do as well.
So, have you seen the furnace in action? Have you seen
I,
anything
I've watched
that's
YouTube videos of it, but like I haven't had a chance to use it. And I really like it for the distraction feature.
yeah?
So, and that's it goes back to those spam armies where you can put in a row of Yetis and have furnaces behind them, and those what furnace creatures? I don't know what they're called. Fire mites.
Spirits? Oh yeah, fire
Fire
mites.
here,
In
glowing
Royale, it
spirits.
was called spirits. I thought, no, maybe not. Fire mites. Let me.
Whatever they
There's
are,
something.
like they'll distract while the Yetis, take down building after building. And as long as you funnel correctly and
Fire
then,
mite.
fire might. So if you use it in the appropriate way, I can really see it being successful, which also kind of brings up the Super Yeti,
I
which
was gonna
they
ask. Yeah.
accidentally released. Did you play with that at all?
Okay. I didn't. I did put it in my CC for the last like 8 hours, and it's one of these things where I kind of like the Yeti a lot, right? Like I've used it a bunch. I just I I couldn't play with it and have it taken away from me.
Hmm.
So I don't know, that love and loss thing again. I guess I'm
Like you
like,
open the present and then your parents just rip
yeah,
it out of your hands and say
yeah.
it's Christmas Eve, not
I'm
Christmas,
like, you know what?
Scotty.
Don't give it to me. Don't let me play with it unless you mean it. You know?
There's part of me that thinks that they might have done it on purpose. And the reason is because, of course, they play test these new troops and these new features,
Whoops.
but they wanted to release it because they knew that there was a certain percentage of the player base that would get it and would do things with it that they didn't think of in development. And so I played around with it a little bit. And of course, I watched a shock video on it. The very first attack that I did with the attack uses Super Yeti in a blimp. You get it to a certain portion of the base, and then you put down 3 or 4 clone spells. And the goal is to clone, and they're not called Yeti mites, they're called something else, electromites or something like that,
Oh.
to clone the electromites, and the electromites just go like literally go everywhere. The first attack that I did with it, took out like 50% of the base.
Jesus.
And I came back to chat and I was like, holy cow, this is broken beyond measure. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And then I went and did my second attack, did the blimp. The Super Yeti came out. I put 3 clone spells around the Super Yeti and nothing happened. And I was like,
Really?
what in the world? So the only thing that I can think of, and I like, I don't have the stats for the Super Yeti, so I'm not sure that this is the case, but I think that the electromites are extremely weak in HP,
Oh.
but very, very high in DPS.
So if you've got
So
like a poison or something?
yeah, so if a poison hits them, or if there's a like a multi-target Inferno Tower, or anything that does like splash damage, and it hits the Yeti mites as they're coming out of the Super Yeti, it's going to kill them pretty instantly, which means that they're never going to be able to reach the clone spells, which means you're never going to be able to see that massive 50% of the base being wiped out by all of these electromites that come out of the Super Yeti. So if they're balancing it that way, then that definitely makes it more of a skill-based troop, where you have to recognize, if I drop the Super Yeti here, and if, the Super
Ye-
Yeti steps to the left and a giant bomb goes off, well, it's going to kill that electromite that would have been cloned. So, like, it's going to take
Yeah.
very precise, specific types of attacks to be able to use it. And obviously, there's player base that can do that really well. But I don't necessarily think it's OP if it's based on the fact that the electromites are very low in HP and they die very easily, versus the regular Yeti mite, which doesn't die immediately. In fact, a lot of times you have a bunch of them just hopping across the base, getting attacked by defenses, but they're still alive, and then they attack the defense. Well, then that's a great way of balancing it. I think that they wanted to test that to see how many players could actually use it successfully before they actually released it officially to all of Clash of Clans.
Do did they have a date? I mean, the graphic was in. I mean, they had to. Something had to. Ooh, it's kind of weird that it slipped through. Do you imagine it's coming soon?
Was like, whoops, we
Yeah.
accidentally put the Super
Oh.
Yeti in.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I'm just gonna leave this out here. Don't look at
Whoops.
it or
Guys, don't
anything.
see it. No,
Yep.
no, this isn't really here.
Yeah. What was the housing space on that?
So it was 35 housing space, so about double what so regular Yeti's 18 troop space. So I mean, right at double. But I didn't I didn't see any stats, so I don't know how many. I'm not sure I'm calling them right. Whatever the electromites are, I don't know how many electromites pop out. But my feeling is that it's not that many, because when I failed using the Super Yeti, like, it was a massive fail. It was literally like the blimp would drop, Super Yeti would pop out, I'd put down the clone spells, and poof, like nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. And I would even practice where the clone spells were practically on top of the Super Yeti, and still nothing would clone. So like it's I think it will very much be a skill based type of attack, or an attack where you have to recognize, okay, in this section of the base, a Super Yeti blimp is not going to work because there's too much splash damage. But in this section of the base, I can get those Yeti mites to clone, and just completely obliterate half of the base. And so that will take base ID, which is a skill in and of itself. So I'm excited to try it and see if they make tweaks to it. Like, did they collect data from the players who actually did use it while it was in game, and what are they gonna do to it, and how is it going to appear when it actually is officially in game?
And make sure it pops, because that was a few of mine. It didn't pop, and it
Mhm.
was hard to like. I couldn't see the stats when I tried to find it or whatnot,
Same,
and
same.
so I was like, "Yeah, how am I using this, or what what am I waiting for?" Because I didn't even look at the videos because I couldn't. I just I heard it's so good. I can't.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
don't
me.
make me want it. Don't make me want it.
Well, I'm excited because if there's a potential way to identify a portion of the base that you can use this on, then like I'm excited to add that to my tool belt. Like, oh, this is a perfect, area that just kind of like if I use a super archer blimp, well, this is a perfect area for a super archer blimp when this area has lots of spaces so that there's possible lots of giant bombs. So I can't really efficiently use a super archer blimp here. Well, if we can do that same analysis with the super Yeti blimp, like that's just one more tool in our tool belt, and I'm excited to try it out whenever it does come.
Yeah, I just as you're talking about that, I can't help but think, oh, like a super Yeti with furnaces behind it.
It could.
Uh,
So another thing that I thought of is if instead of regular Yetis, if you could put a row of super Yetis down, and since there are multiple super Yetis, that means that some of the electromites would get through. So you put the row of super Yetis down, and then you start placing clone spells ahead of them, just a little bit ahead, so that you're not cloning the Yetis, the super Yetis, but you're cloning the electromites as they start to pop out of the super Yetis. And then, like, that's a way to take down the base in a very strategic way. Because if you put the clone spell down here, well, the electromites are not going to do as well as if you put the clone spell down here. So, like, it's very heavy strategy. So I'm really excited to try it whenever it does come out, and I guess we'll have to see, wait and see. I don't know the official date when they're finally gonna
yeah,
release it.
I'm dreaming about it as you're saying that, or even like the E Titan, uh, the E Titan Yeti
Mhm.
Smash. I was just thinking, like, God, you're talking about uh them coming in, but in the clones, I'm just thinking, well, what if they were cleared out by this or ooh, see, I'm dreaming. That's why I don't show me.
Well, and also another reason why I think that this is a very strong possibility, which is also goes back to what I referenced earlier with Supercell's trying to give the player who really enjoys this mass troop attack style, trying to give them options, is because I don't know if you noticed in the update notes, but they lowered the amount of troop space that a lot of these troops have. So for example, the Yeti might
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about
before
that.
was 3 troop space. Now it's only 1 troop space, which means if you can clone, and I can't remember the clone spell, like what it does up to. I think it's like
Oh,
25 troop space. I have it here. I can look real quick. But the clone spell can only clone up to a specific amount. And so if you lower the troop space for some of these like Yeti mites and I think it was the snakes. There was a list of stuff that they lowered the troop space for. That means when you clone them, there will be more of them on the map in order to do damage, which makes me think that they're kind of pushing players towards this. So if you have, for instance, a wall of Yetis and those Yeti mites are coming out going towards defenses, if you can clone them when before you may have only gotten double the amount of Yeti mites, well, now maybe you can get triple or quadruple the amount of Yeti mites, which would make that type of attack strategy really effective at Town Hall 17. We'll just have to wait and see what develops out of it.
okay. This was a big one that I didn't understand. This is the one. This is a. I was hoping to talk to you about this, so I'm glad that you brought it up. Um, Here's what it says: lava pup, ice pup, lava loon pup, housing space reduced from 2 to 1.
Hmm.
Skeleton trap air skeletons, housing space reduced from 2 to 1. What does that mean?
So I don't understand the defensive side of that because the defensive side troop space doesn't really matter, at least from my perspective. But on the offensive side, so for example, if you do, did it say that regular skeleton? I need to look. Does it
Mhm.
say that regular skeletons troop space is
Nope.
lowered? It's just
Nope.
air skellies.
Yeah. So maybe that's for a targeting thing.
Could
Like,
be. Also, they could come out with a flying skelly troop, which I know that we have the skeleton barrel. But what if we had a because now we have the skelly spell, right? And you can
yeah.
use the skellies on the ground. You can also clone the skellies that are on the ground, I think. What if they came out with a new troop that was flying air skellies
Yeah.
somehow?
That's
And then you could clone those flying air skellies. And because now they're only 1 troop space, that means you could clone a butt ton of
a
flying
butt
air
ton.
skellies, like a massive amount compared to what before. Because if before, like with Yeti mites, it was 3 troop space, you and I just looked, it's 42. the clone spell would clone up to 42 troop space. So literally that it goes from, the 13 Yeti mites, cloning them, like doubling them, to being able to get 42 Yeti mites on the map, possibly. So like it's really exciting to see
You
what
should.
could happen. And the same thing
I
could
think.
happen with the air skellies.
I think they should just change the clone spell to butt ton spell.
Butt ton spell.
Or that could have been your
A butt ton of troops.
that could have been your new troop. It's the butt ton troop that is the air skelly one.
But it's also a skill, because like if I do a Yeti blink, for example, and those Yetis go down, I want to clone the Yeti mite. I don't want to clone the Yetis, because if I
Yeah.
clone a Yeti, sure, I have the Yeti damage, but the Yeti DPS isn't anything abnormal. Like it's regular, like it's not spectacular with its damage. But the Yeti mites, if you can place those clone spells in the right place to get the Yeti mites in that clone spell, you can see massive amounts of damage across the base. But it's going to take skill to know where to put that, exactly where to put that clone spell whenever you do a Yeti blimp or a super Yeti blimp,
Well, and so the Yeti might went 3-1. Big
right?
boy went 20-10. The Druid Bear form, now I'm like, kind of getting this, like 16-10 housing space.
Mm-hmm.
As you're talking about this, in my brain, I'm wondering how I could use this to my advantage with using a recall, which is
So
crazy. But
So the cocaine bear example, you could only get 2 cocaine bears before out of a clone spell. So if you
ooh,
clone cocaine bears, you would get 2 of them out. But now, since they've been reduced to 10, that means you can get 4 of them out, because the maximum clone capacity is 42. So you can get 4 cocaine bears versus only 2 before. I really think that the clone spell is going to be
yeah.
it's going to take somebody like Shock to do 50 million attacks and then show us how it's done. But I really think the clone spell is going to become super meta
Well,
here in the near future.
yeah, I guess I better. It's one away from max for me, so I'm glad I kept up on it. But yeah, that's when you were talking about that attack with the Yeti, the Super Yeti. Those are the attacks that scare me because so much of the attack is based in the spells.
Right.
You
And correct
know,
placement.
yeah, and if that one thing goes wrong, same with like the RC walk, and I only take 3 invis and do kind of an abbreviated one. Because if she dies, then my attack is so I don't know, I got to get used to that too.
Well, and spell placement has always been one of the highest skill expressions in the game. So take the Spirit Walk, for example. A a good player will get maximum usage out of every single invisibility spell that they put down. When you have an average player like me who messed up their invisibility spells in the most recent comp board that we did, and my RC died early because I thought the RC was going to go right, but instead she decided to go left. I'm like, oh crap,
Yeah,
crap,
yeah,
invisibility
yeah.
spell.
I
So
always
spell
mess it up.
usage, and that's the difference, which is why I don't think it's a negative thing to be a spam player, because with spam players, if you're good at spam, it means that you're really good at being able to play spells down. I was actually talking
Oh,
with GCBC because C2J actually did a match versus Navi, and Navi's one of the best Clash of Clans teams in esports right now. And he was saying that the preciseness of the spell placement, that evidently Clash with Eric was streaming the war, and he was pointing out how whatever spells that they were using were literally placed in the exact spot that they needed to be in. So
yeah.
then that's what makes the difference between a average player or casual player like us and a really good player, is they are able to get so much more mileage, so much more value out of that spell placement. And I think that the clone spell can definitely be one of those skill expressions that will differentiate between your casual player and your player who's going to be really good because you recognize, for example, where those Yeti mites are going. You recognize which way the RC, if your eye knows, it's automatically counting the tiles between the Inferno Tower that's on the right and the scatter shot that's on the left. And because you have that good skill expression, you know that the scatter shot on the left is half a tile closer just to the naked eye. So you put that invisibility spell on the left, knowing that the RC is going to go that direction. Like I think the same thing can be done with clone spells. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Think about.
Yeah, I'd like to be that person. When that RC goes in, I go, this is what I'm hoping for. This is what I need. This is what I'm hoping also to get. But if it goes wrong, I can do this. That's what I look for. I have my if she goes right, I want her to go right. But if she goes left, this is what I'll do.
Yeah, and I think that the RC walk is really good for a variety of players for that exact reason. Because if you mess up your invis spell, like it's okay. Like in hard mode, you're probably not going to 3-star. If you mess up a single invisibility spell, you're likely not going to triple. But for the casual player, if you miss a single invis spell, hard mode or regular mode, like you can make up for it. Oh, whoops,
Yeah.
my RC went left. I'm gonna put down an extra invis spell that
Yeah.
wastes 1 troop spell space, but I can still do well in the rest of my attack. Sure, I didn't 3-star, but I did really well. I got a high 80% in this hard mode attack. So I think that the Spirit Walk especially is really good for the mass playership. I don't even know if that's a word of
It is
Clash of
now.
Clans because
Your Lord
it's so
playership.
user friendly.
Yeah.
When, for example, maybe the Super Archer blimp isn't quite as mass player friendly. There are a lot of players I know who will not do a Super Archer blimp because of the risk that's involved. Because if you place your Vis spells down at the wrong time, your Super
Yeah.
Wizards and your Blizzard or your Super Archers are dead. Like there's no. But if you miss an Invis spell on an RC, it's okay. She takes a shot. You put another Invis spell down. Your attack keeps going.
Well, and that's what seems like with the preciseness of the spells, but like in the tournament we saw today, and maybe this is just kind of a representative example. They have their objectives, and they threw a hero at it, and they said, I'm betting on this. You know what I mean? Like maybe what I need to do is just commit. I don't know, like
Go all in.
yeah, go all in where it's like starting this week and doing these FCs in the clan, kind of realizing or wondering, I guess, if the approach isn't now to start, and maybe okay, this might sound stupid, but going for the 3-star strategy, not the
Not that I'm going to get as high
not
of a
the
2-star as possible, but I'm going to think 3-star.
yeah, do the not the CW, or like the tournament approach where the sure two, but banking on the and don't worry team, I'm not gonna do this. Okay.
I think it's
But
genius. No, I think you're onto something.
but it seems like the approach has been, because it's been that 2-star game, right? Uh and we've transitioned in CWL to go for the sure two, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what I'm missing in my approaches in hard mode is I'm really not thinking uh I'm thinking the 2-star way instead of the 3-star strategy. Like
Interesting.
if I was a 15 or 16, and I got to say, like, I put up a few FCs that Way went in and hit, and he's a 15. He 3-starred my base, but I think he approached it as a 3-star way, and in doing that, this stuff is kind of occurring to me now as we're talking, but
Well, that's why I love talking to you.
it all comes brainstorming.
Well, and I was thinking too that my only problem with going all in is I'm going all in with a pair of threes.
No,
When
you're
somebody
not.
somebody from Navi has a pair of aces, I'm like,
Oh, you
pair of
no,
threes? Yes, all in. That's tip dog 20.
no.
So somebody
Please.
like somebody like War Pigs going in with two jacks, but tip dog 20's got a pair of threes. That's all I got.
Or my, a club and a diamond aren't the same. Oh, okay.
You're That's funny.
um, I don't know. I don't know that we're just. It makes me. I'm just wondering if we're starting to get into that place
Well, I have a
now.
question for you. So at this point, so we are developing as a clan. House of L is developing. I would say we are leaps and bounds above what we were 6 months ago.
Oh yeah,
Right? Players have gotten way better. There's
yeah,
lots of chatter. We're improving. We're doing FCs. What if we're shooting ourselves in the foot by sticking to the 2-star strategy in CWL? And the reason that I say that is if all of our players go for the 3-star strategy, let's say that 2 of us 1-star, but 3 of us 3-star. When if all of us were going for the 2-star strategy, maybe only 1 of us 3-star. So sure, it sucks that Tip Dog 20 got a 1-star on base number
yeah,
5, but if Daddy-O gets a 3-star because he went for the 3-star strategy on number 6, well, technically that evens itself out anyway. So should we look at CWL differently and say, look, go for the 3-star. We want you to shoot for the stars because if everybody's doing that, we are at the point skill wise where we're good enough where if we're shooting for the star or if we're shooting for, well, what's that term? We're shooting for the stars, we'll at least hit the moon.
yeah. Is the two? Are we pissing in the wind with the
Yeah.
2-star strategy?
And I think that it's valid up for the level that we were at in CWL, the skill level we had. It was difficult for a lot of players to 3-star. We were still learning strategies. Sure, at that point, if you're unlikely to 3-star, then yeah, definitely go for the 2-star. At least get that. But we have a lot of players who are getting really good at 3-starring on a regular basis. Well, should we always go for the 3-star, even if that means starting out our attack on the opposite end of the base and ending up on the town hall? Like the town hall's
Yeah,
the last building, but man, I'm shooting my shot. Like I'm going for that 3-star no matter what. And should we start pursuing that as a clan, like a whole clan strategy?
you'd probably be able to answer that better than I would. I mean, I kind of wonder. Um, I wonder if in the last, because the last couple CWLs have been really like neck and neck, and even
Hmm?
sorry, been neck and neck, and even still, the team that will lose will pull ahead.
Right?
Will have lost a match or like that. What are those teams doing to eke it out? Are they putting up that
They
restart?
got more 3-stars than we did.
Yeah,
Like, and even in the last CWL, like I didn't participate in the last CWL, but I came in at the end of it. Like I looked at your attacks, like everybody's doing a great job 2-starring now. But the team that beat House of L, even though we beat them and we won all of our matches, but the team that we beat, the reason that they beat us in the end was because they got more 3-stars than we did. So do we need to make that shift? Are we good
yeah,
enough to that point to where it's time to say, okay, look, we have freedom now to go for the 3-star. We need to stop looking at these bases as if we want to make sure that we 2-star, and if we get a 3-star, yay. You know?
yeah. I'm kind of as we're talking, I'm thinking, has this just been really ingrained in me for the last couple months? Like, have I even in my FCs? I think I've been just constantly going for that 2-star
Putting it all
approach.
on the line. Yeah. Changing our mindset.
Yeah, and if I just dial it back a little bit, I'm really kind of excited to play around with it. Because there's been a difference between even my legend attacks and my war attacks. Um, in legend, I'm playing the 2, right? Like I need to
Mm-hmm.
get the trophies, and I'm not going to play around with it right now because every time I do something towards the end of put in a different base, just got wrecked one day and lost a bunch of trophies, and I've been trying to eke it back up. And or at the end, near the end of Legends, I always like change up an army or something, and then something bad happens. But maybe at the start of next month, uh, to do that. But but in war, I've been doing better. I guess 5 stars now, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I've been going for the safe thing too. Hmm.
Something about.
Yeah, something to think about. What about Sneezy, the new pet?
So I haven't used it. I've watched a little bit of what it does. Like it was needed by far for the exact reason of what I talked about in the beginning of this podcast. Like we just didn't have enough air pet options. Like you got the owl, the electro owl, and then technically you got the
Was that
phoenix.
disdain?
What that I messed up?
No, the owl. You
Oh,
said the
well, no,
owl.
I think the owl's fine. I should have. I'm mad at myself for not thinking of switching out Diggy with the owl, but I've been using
Oh,
spirit.
oh,
I've been using the spirit walk root rider attack, and I didn't think because I use dragons in the competition uh, war that we just did. I didn't think to switch out the pet from a ground pet to an air pet. So that being said, like we got Electro Owl, we got the Phoenix technically is an air pet, even though it doesn't start as an air pet, and we got the Brain Sucker. I can remember what it's
oh,
called. The
angry
weak
jelly.
Angry Jelly. We got the Angry Jet. Like those are the only. Am I forgetting anything? Those are the only flying pet options that we had. So if you're gonna do a flying attack, well, you have two flying heroes. So you got the Warden on air, and then you got the Minion Prince. Well, one of those are going to get the Electro Owl. That means the other one has to get the Phoenix, or it has to get the Angry Jelly. Well, the Angry Jelly doesn't work
Oh,
in some situations if you're going to use, air pets, because you don't want to happen to you what happened to me in our competitive match, where my Diggy pulled all of the ice golems over to my
oh,
dragons and froze them up in the worst possible place. When if I had just left an air pet on my warden, because my warden was on air, the warden wouldn't have pulled the CC troops. Well, then my dragons would have gotten a lot farther than what they did because I made that one mistake. So for that reason, I'm really happy that we have Sneezy. It's got obviously I want to use it, see how effective it is. And it'll definitely add to air attacks because, I mean, like I said, we just don't have that air option, effective air option with the type of attacking style that a lot of players are using it in, unless you're going to put the Phoenix, for example, on the Warden, which isn't a bad option, but it's nice to have another option for air.
I could see him like with the king on the outside with the snake bracelet.
But the only problem with that is a lot of times players will put black air bombs at right on the edge
Oh,
of the base to try to prevent like queen charges, or like if the queen uses her giant arrow on the edge of the base, some players will put black mines right there to pop those healers that pop out of the if you're using the healer puppet. So because of that, I would be afraid if I put Sneezy on my king or a king charge like that using the snake bracelet, that the Sneezy would just go down to a black mine pretty quick. That would be my only fear.
he's gonna. I think he'd be awesome on my warden,
Mm-hmm. If you're doing air attacks, for sure.
or even like as a warden walk,
Could so
because he'd stay behind.
interestingly enough, at Town Hall 14, a lot. Which I mean, we only had 4 pets at Town Hall 14, but the Electro Owl was the troop that was used with the Warden for
Yeah.
Warden walks, and we it was affectionately known as the Cocoa Owl because essentially what ended up happening was it protected the healers, which were behind the warden. So the first time that a seeking air mine popped up, it would hit the owl because the owl goes out ahead of the warden. So for that reason, like I could see it possibly being useful. But again, if it's going through the middle of the base, like Sneezy's going to die pretty quick because if we're using a ground army, nothing's setting off those air traps, but Sneezy will get hit with it the first air trap that it comes to.
Oh, is that they'll take out that much?
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think it would die pretty quickly. But it's an interesting thought
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Kind of,
depending on how you use it, I guess.
well, kind of like how we're seeing lots of players now, even with ground army, they're putting the metal pants on the minion prints just so that they can use the dark orb, because the dark orb freezing ability is so powerful that they're finding value in using the minion prince, which is a flying troop, in a ground attack over using the king with the earthquake boots and the spiky ball, for example. Like they're getting more value out of that flying hero. So could the same thing be applied to Sneezy? Possibly. I guess we'll have to wait and see, how it's used in the meta.
Oh, if he's on the minion prince, even couldn't he be?
Right? Hmm. Especially for dragon attacks. I think that's where we're going to see it most.
Well, Tip, I forgot to tell you,
Oh no!
my heroes are maxed.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. It
All
finally
of them?
happened. Not the minion prince.
My minion prince isn't done either. I need to finish.
He's like 5 away, I think. And now I'm starting to level up his equipment and gear him up. So he is. Are you using him much?
So I'm not with my ground army. So anytime I use dragons, so the reason why I attacked that base in the competitive match with dragons was because all the bows were on ground, and I saw that I could get both of the air sweepers with my giant arrow. So for that reason, I thought, well, an air army, I'm doing spirit walk, I'm setting the funnel. Air army will probably do better on the space than a ground army, just because of the extended range of the expos and the fact that I can get both air sweepers with the giant arrow. Um, what was your question?
If you're using that MP much.
So with my
No,
dragon
that's all right.
attacks, I had a brain fart moment.
I know.
With
I
my
do
dragon
also,
attacks,
so.
yes, I'm using the minion prince, but like I said, I'm seeing him more with ground attacks, and especially with the metal pants on him, like he's protected, because we talked about how Sneezy's going to die to the first black mine that pops up into the air. It's going to kill it right away. Well, the metal pants protects against that, and I actually think too, like the minion prince kind of lags behind. I think that the minion prince can take a black mine or two without the metal pants activating, which means he can stay alive for a lot of the attack anyway. So because of that, I'm really considering trading out the king in exchange for the minion prince
So
for my ground attacks. But he's only at level 80, so I think I still have 5 levels to go. So I got to finish him anyway. So I might not do that right away, but I might consider that in the future. Was just and the
yeah.
reasons for the dark orb. Like the dark orb is so powerful. Like it freezes, slows everything down so much for so long that it makes it worth it over the king. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that this week. And thinking about like I got the heroes done. Uh I couldn't believe it. That was a little bit of a game changing in attacks too,
Did the
because
clouds part and the angels start singing?
they did, if you keep at something long enough, like 12 years, you'll eventually get there.
I remember when you were at Town Hall 10 and you had like a level 5 king and a level 4 queen.
Oh my
I
god.
remember those days. But I mean, to your credit, the heroes, number one, if you took them into battle, and even pre clan wars, if you took them into farming raids, when they died,
Yeah,
it took them like
that's
8 hours to regenerate.
yeah.
So like you never used them
2
anyway.
weeks
So
to upgrade and you
right. Like it was ridiculous numbers. So understandable that you would ignore them back then, but I bet it's got to be a good feeling, like
yeah, it's
how far they've come.
well, and like from a year ago, I think it was probably about a year ago now where we were talking and I realized my warden was at level 22
Right.
and it needed to like
I remember that. You were talking about your warden walk, and you're like, "Oh, my warden walk's just not working." I'm like,
yeah, it's
"Oh, I
just
don't understand why." I think my warden's a level 22. I'm like, "Oh."
yeah. And then I thought I remember walking away that day thinking, "Oh my god, I've got so far to go." Uh
So do you get out your memory books, like your picture books, to see the king when he was little and the queen?
yeah.
He was such a
Yep,
cute
I have
little
a
guy.
picture of me in front of the hero pointing at it
in front
with
of
a
the
big
you got
smile
a
on my face.
picture with the queen in front of the town hall.
Yeah, my arms around all
Just a
of
little queen.
them. And it's so like to finally get him done, and then I go, "Oh, that minion prince looks nice," but he's only a few more levels, so I'm sure they'll introduce a few more levels very soon for him.
I wonder though. I know that they've only been introducing 5 levels per town hall, and especially per previous conversation, if they're trying to like move the focus over to the troops, and I don't know whether they are or they aren't. Do you think that there might be a chance that they won't be adding levels to heroes and will be adding more levels to troops? So making the troop complement stronger while de-emphasizing the heroes. Because in the past, they've always make our heroes better, stronger. Heroes are destroying 60% of the base. Well, like we've talked about, it seems like there may be a shift away from heroes into troops. What if they don't add 5 levels of heroes at either in
I
this town
know.
hall or the next one?
I don't know. That RC has 50 more levels it could go,
Mm, could, you're right.
but yeah, I don't know.
And something else to consider is the hero grind is abs.
It
I
is.
mean, 100 levels of heroes. Now, granted, it
Yeah.
goes fast, but we have nothing else in game that has 100 levels. I think the Archer Tower goes up to like level 21 before it turns into the multi Archer Tower,
Yeah.
but 100 levels. Like that's just crazy to think
They should
about.
be like, yeah, we talked about this where like 20 levels on like a pet house.
Mhm.
Something very, yeah, because there's a lot to go on that.
Yeah, and even the pets, like, the pets go up to 10. I mean, other than the I don't know if you noticed, but the unicorn got 5 more levels, which
Yeah,
is interesting.
I've been using him on my warden, and so I wanted to put him down, but we're right before CWL, and I just don't want to mess with things this time.
You know why I think they added 5 levels to the
Why?
unicorn? Because I think that players are using it less and less and less. I'm not even using the unicorn anymore in my army.
Yeah, I brought him back.
I see the value 100%, but I made the judgment call, and I'm mixing around my pets a little bit, and I just couldn't find a place for the unicorn. Like, it wasn't doing enough for me compared to what the other pets could do and the types of attacks that I was using. So it's kind of gone by the wayside. And I think that that's true for a lot of players. And again, if something's unloved and unused, it seems
They'll
like Supercell puts some levels on it. And if something's used too much, well, then they
they'll
nerf
take
it.
yeah.
Like it's all based on player use statistics. Those
Statistics.
those things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I, I do you think it's I guess worth it? I went with my angry jelly until I get my pet house leveled up. Uh I don't know. This it's been making me think a lot about like what we're talking about with and what we have been talking about and then um just this increase in strength, maybe now I really need to focus in on spells uh and pets a little bit more. I have been switching up the pets a little bit. But I'm finally in that range too where I have a bunch of maxed pets. So
Hmm.
I have the flexibility to switch them out.
Yeah, and I mean, we're even seeing things like the poison lizard, for example, which I mean,
Yeah,
for the longest time was
choose.
considered the worst troop in or the worst pet in the game. Like players are using it more, in their mass root rider attacks because those heroes pose a big threat to our root riders and such. So throwing poison lizard in there is one way to counter that. But again, you're looking at your attack, like what's working, what's not working, and if you're finding a place for the poison lizard, then you might not find a place for the unicorn. I still think the unicorn is very valid. Like it's a very powerful pet. I would upgrade it for sure. And if you find that it works for you, I don't think it's a wrong choice at all. But also, there are other very strong options that players are using, which is the reason why I think Supercell decided to go ahead and level up the unicorn by 5 levels.
Do you think that means the other pets are going to get more levels?
So, interestingly enough, I think it will be based on whether or not players are. So
Oh, you think
if
of this?
yeah, I think they look at the numbers. I think if like a huge portion of the player base start using the unicorn again, and they stop using Frosty, for example, because right now I have Frosty on my queen because those frost mites distract defenses way more than the unicorn was healing my queen, which is why I switched over to it. So I think if players, start switching over the unicorn because it's so much more powerful, well, then that's a sign to Supercell to be like, oh, Frosty needs some love, and so let's go ahead and add 5 levels to it. So I think that's when we'll see it happen. Is whenever the player usage statistics go go down. It's like trying to say cinnamon. You say cinnamon,
Cinnamon?
cinnamon, cinnamon,
Cinnamon.
cinnamon.
There's a lot of times if I say draft, it sounds like giraffe.
Draft. Are you one of
Dra-
those people that finds like certain words like you don't like when people say certain words? Like one
no,
of those words is moist.
no, I have no problem with that. I'm
I'm not
usually the
either.
one that is saying, "Oh, you don't like that word? What word?" I was
What
saying it is funny.
is this word? This
Yeah,
word? This word?
yeah. Which word? Uh, I just derailed in my thoughts.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know that
yeah,
there's much more of the
I,
update we can talk about.
yeah. I don't. I think we're kind of. I'm just looking through here. Yeah, I like the new interface. So
Interface is
far,
super cool. Yep.
I like that. Easy to switch things around. Did you understand the trophy? Do you know what the trophy change
So
thing is?
my understanding is because of players like me, for example, who will sit down and do 20 attacks back to back to back to back to back to back to get the necessary elixir that I need. Supercell didn't want this huge conglomerate of players to get stuck in Legend League when they didn't want to be there because that's a negative player experience.
Oh
So
yeah,
if a player is just attacking back to back to back to back to back, well, under the old trophy system, they're going to be gaining a lot of trophies, especially if they're 2-starring or 3-starring in their attacks. They're going to go up super quick, and Supercell doesn't have an answer. This is something that a lot of people have requested. They don't have a way to get out of Legend League easily. Like there's no button you
yeah.
can press to say lower me automatically to 4,000 trophies or something like that. I want out of Legend League,
Or opt
please.
out.
Right,
Uh,
something. There's no way to do that. So in order to combat that natural increase in progression of trophies and players, they lowered the amount of trophies that you can gain when attacking so that that march to Legend League is slowed.
oh, okay,
That's kind of how I looked at it.
okay. Is there a difference at all in the amount of trophies we get when
I just know that it
attacking?
was lowered. So I don't
Like
remember
like
before
in
the
Legend
max.
Leagues, is it like our attacks every day? Is that percentage going to change at all?
I don't
I
know that Legend League changed at all. It might have, but I don't think I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I'm not
we'll
sure if
have to
Legend League trophies
let it
changed at all or not.
flesh out a little bit, like in the update. And
I wouldn't think that they would change Legend League because there's kind of like this not ceiling, but there's this line in Legend League. So if a player can get above 6,000 trophies right now, like that's a massive accomplishment. Like you've done very well. If you can get over 6,000 trophies, like you're going to rank in the top, 10,000 in the world. Like you've made it over 6,000. If they lowered the amount of trophies that are in Legend League, then, the top line trophy line is going to be like 5,600 versus 6,000. So I don't think that they lowered the trophies in Legend League, but I could be wrong on that. I think it was
yeah, I thought it was
Justin below.
something with the offering, but that could probably just be the below thing. I thought maybe it was going to affect Legends too, but yeah, I mean, it's a big update. It really felt like it's just been a series of
of
things this
of good
week.
updates.
Yeah, and well, I mean, this week even like the
Oh
stuff
yeah,
that
right.
keeps popping out is like, okay, okay, just even just trying to get a handle on it and see how it's kind of working out. Like, um, yeah, every time there's an update, it just seems like everything gets thrown into the mix, and now we've got CWL. But I think for the most part, there shouldn't be any major shake up, I don't think, with anything. I mean, hopefully I can get some army camp space by then. But you know what I'm saying? Like no big game altering
Right.
drop that would, it's in total chaos. But
Right. Yeah. And I'm curious what you think of this, but I think that Supercell is, of course, they're spending lots of money of trying to get new players into the game. But I think with all of these updates, they're trying to focus on their their core player base.
sound
My
like me today.
word pronunciation is awful today. And let's say that they have a core player base of 40 million players. Well, they're looking to grow that core player base. So although maybe overall, they used to have, and I don't know the numbers, but let's say that they used to have 100 million players and now they're down to 60 million players. Well, before they had 40 million players who only logged in, never spent any gems, never really got involved with the game. Well, now that sure the overall amount of players that's logging in is 60 million, but before the core amount was only 30 million, now it's up to 40 million because they're focusing on all of these quality of life improvements, ways for players who really get into the game to enjoy the game more. And as a result of growing that core player base, Supercell in the end is essentially going to make more money because we're willing to spend money on something that we love, something that we see they are investing in. And I think that they're trying to grow that core audience and not just, overall numbers. Oh, what do you think about that?
I think you're right. And it kind of, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, when you get into Clash, a lot of times it's like you get really excited about it, but that's hard to sustain
Right.
sometimes, like that. And I think for some of the frustration is for things that this will fix, like, oh shit, I got to get my Legend League trophies in. What's, if I miss an attack, my days, my whole
Mm-hmm.
month is screwed or whatever. Being able to get your tax in when you need to and farm like you did, I'm just gonna go in and hit until I get my stuff. And
Right.
um
But that's a core
it's
player experience.
yeah, so somebody who's kind of bought into the game and has played, but maybe just can't keep up the intensity of how of really farming, or life gets busy, but then all of a sudden it's just a little bit easier. um I don't know, maybe that's just kind of what I'm thinking right now as you're saying that.
Well, I'm thinking of the example of the player who maybe is 40 years old and they had a long day at work. They worked from 8 a.m. They had meetings after work. They worked till 7, and
Bob's a
they
real
think
asshole
you're
at work.
and they think, "Oh, man, like I can only get 2 or 4 Legend League attacks in today. That's gonna drop my number of trophies anyway. You know what? I'm not gonna attack."
Yeah,
And
no.
so their trophy count drops. And then the next day they think, "Well, oh, man, my trophy count dropped by 200 yesterday. Well,
What's the
I'm
point?
not even gonna bother." And they slowly step away from the game
Yeah.
where this new no troop training time update means they can get home at 7, and it may take them an hour, but they can still get all their Legend League attacks in that hour, which means they stay more attached to the game versus, "Oh, I can't get my attacks in anyway," and it slowly pushes them or draws them away.
Yeah. Or people who really want to play multiple accounts don't have to be
It's easier.
like, yeah, like don't have to visit a psychiatrist afterwards.
You're some of us already do.
Yeah,
These
bills all across the country and the
this
world are.
the statistics are high among Clash of Clans players who are a little too infatuated with this game.
Which one of you am I talking to? No.
That was a good one.
Oh my lord. Yeah. The only thing I worry about is the social thing, but again though it might change the orientation of the game to more competitive, and I don't know. Do you think why do you think somebody said that it was a game killer, right? Do you do you worry about that now?
Not at all. I don't. No, not at all. If anything, it's a game improver. Like it
Yeah.
improve with anything. Like it's so the only way that I would think that it would be a game killer is if it somehow provided a negative play experience. And I'm working on a video right now where it will provide a negative play experience with clan games because they implemented this
Oh.
time limit for attacking. So before, when I would play clan games, I would pick builder based challenges. And let's say the builder based challenge was destroy 4 archer towers on the builder base. So I would go in, I would make sure that, on this base, there were 2 archer towers. I would destroy those 2 archer towers, force close the app, go back in, do another attack right away, and kill the next 2 archer towers. So that way I could get that task done in
Yeah.
clan games more quickly. They took away that option. That in and of itself is a negative play experience. And then also there's a negative play experience. I don't know how many players were doing this, but some players, in order to get their 6 builder on the builder base, they would drop troops like baby dragons, force close the app, do another attack, drop troops, force close the app, do another, in order to gain as much loot in as short of amount of time as possible. I don't know what percentage of the player base actually use that strategy. So that in and of itself is a negative play experience. But with this, like it's literally all positive. We can play more. We can interact with the game more. We don't have to stress out about getting our Legend League attacks 2 done in the morning and 2 done at the moment that
Yeah.
we get home. Like to me, other than those minor examples, which can be fixed with adjusting clan games, in my opinion, like I would love to see a rework of clan. I mean, it's 7.5 years old. Like clan games were introduced in the summer of 2017. So like it's time for a rework for clan games. Like let's do something different, make it more exciting. But other than that, like I only see this as a positive, which means that players who are in the game, that core player base that we were talking about, is only going to enjoy the game more. And if you have a player base that's happy with the game, why would that be a game killer?
Yeah.
But
I
that's just
think it
my
I
perspective.
yeah, I think it was maybe at the chat, that people won't be on as much, and um
Could
but yeah,
It could. Yeah, I mean, I can
but I
see that possibly, but I don't know.
yeah, I think that's in a worst case scenario maybe.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people are there to like be social and to and whatnot.
And I mean, that's what we did our whole last episode on.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason that I took a 2-month break, but I wanted to come back is because of the social interaction. And, like, no troop training times has nothing to do with that. Like,
Yeah.
we just did a competitive war. We sat on voice, the 5 or 6 of us, and we talked for an hour. We stayed afterwards. I mean, like that's what I'm looking forward to. No troop training time, like that doesn't affect that relationship building status at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, I guess. And certainly makes it less frustrating to try to go do an attack and then change up your army, for
Agreed.
sure.
But that
Yeah.
one thing, like they really need to do something with FC chat. Like that's pretty massive. That hopefully
Yeah.
they'll change.
Yeah, that was my big one, just because I think like it's especially now, uh when you could just do all of your attacks right away and then you have the rest of the day. I think that might
It's more
be
time to do FCs.
yeah, and then they're gonna be
Yep.
everywhere.
Yep.
Which
It's a good thing. Like it's a
do it,
good thing
yeah,
for our clan.
definitely a
Yes,
good
100%.
thing. This is
Yeah.
more of
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
supercell kind of thing.
Right.
So
Yeah, so nobody should ever feel bad for doing 50
yeah,
FCs and
yeah.
clan. Like I love to see it. It's just a
Just no,
bummer that it.
it's normal if you do, because that's how I feel. But
Yep,
it's gotta happen.
yep, exactly.
Well, shout outs.
So I want to shout out All Hell just because
AH.
I laugh at all of his. And I don't know if he has like a Jeff Foxworthy book of funniest jokes that he just constantly has a running log of
Yeah.
in game chat. Like it's just freaking hilarious and it makes me laugh. So
Yeah.
please don't stop. Some of the jokes are just
You log
so
in for your daily.
for my daily all hell fixation.
Yeah, he's hilarious. And there's always a good one there. At least.
Always. Always. And then I also want to shout out Ghost Knight. I know he's taking a break from the game for a little while. But he's a really good guy. I'm excited for his
He's so fun.
future. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it, right? You got to step away from the game for a little while, take a break, clear your head. I mean, Clash of Clans can be like it can be an addiction. I'm not saying that Ghost Knight was addicted to Clash of Clans at all, but like it can be an addiction for some people. And sometimes the best way to handle that is just to get away from it and clear your head.
Yeah.
But so hopefully he comes back eventually when he's ready. But huge shout out to him because I know he's a super great guy and I really enjoy talking to him. So yeah,
Yes.
shout out to Ghost
Sometimes
Knight.
life gets hectic, and I think like there's always that, you can get behind and stuff, but that would just make it just as easy to catch up.
Right.
No FOMO if you need a little break. Don't burn yourself out on it.
Yep, 100%.
For sure.
People will still be here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my time to take another break down the road. So I may not be there at that moment, but eventually I'll probably be back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, things are getting crazy.
Yep.
Other shout outs.
That's it for me. What about you?
Well, I'm gonna do a big shout out to Chewy for putting together and organizing the tournaments
Yes.
and everything. Really appreciate it. Keeps things moving so smoothly. A shout out to, I guess, all the listeners out there. I'm just kind of the whole House of L. I'm looking forward to getting into CWL with everybody. I think that's kind of as you go through a month, you kind of go through the cycle of you start off CWL, and by the end of CWL, you're exhausted and whatnot. And so I always kind of look forward to this part of the month where we all kind of come together and then we'll do the Ore Wars and everything. So it's always super fun. I'll shout out Ghost Knight too. Thanks Ghost. He gave us a few bases. Really appreciate it. And I guess shout out to, why am I blanking?
The statistics.
I guess shout out to all the listeners out there. It was a little under the weather the week before and kind of got behind and wanted to get caught up on everything. But keep on going. And so I think other than that, you can get a hold of us, Clash of Clans Podcast at gmail.com or clashclanspodcast.com. You can find all the information there. And I've been working on some of the House of L stuff. I'll be updating. Or Clash Tips on YouTube. And I love your new logo. Tip. It's
that was all you.
Cool.
You're the one who introduced me to the whole Chat GPT making logos. Like it's crazy.
Fun.
It's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I can just sit there and play for a long time till you hit your limit, I guess. Other than that, until next time, keep it clashy, everybody.
Keep it clashy.
Skilly beep boop, skilly beep.